afternoon to the incomparable ladies of the Iota Lambda Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Students, parents, family, and friends. It's my honor to join you for this important event. I want to thank President Sharon Stanley Merriweather and all of the organizers of this event for inviting me to support and showcase my alma mater, the Morgan State University. The theme for today is yesterday, today, and forever. It recalls a quote by Condoleezza Rice. What you know today can affect what you do tomorrow. But what you know today cannot affect what you did yesterday. As you hear from the panelists representing some of the most prestigious historically black colleges and universities in the nation, take in the full breadth of each story. Use this opportunity to consider how can you serve our world and our future. To do this, you must start with your why. Think about what kind of person you want to be. Asking first, why do you want to serve, will make you be grounded and make it much easier to determine your next steps and your path forward. Without our why, it is impossible to know how to serve or what type of career you will have and be able to make the most impact and serve your purpose. So as you listen today and consider your why, be sure to reflect on your yesterday, today, and future. They will all contribute to discovering your passion and your purpose. With that, it's my honor to introduce our moderator, member of the Iota Lambda Omega chapter, Lacey Foster.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Ball, for that warm welcome and introduction.
Good afternoon.
Sorry. My name is Lacey Foster, and I graduated from Spelman College in December of 2019 with a degree in biology. I then went to Morehouse School of Medicine and received a Master's of Neuroscience this May in 2021. And now I'm a first-year medical student at Keck School of Medicine at the University of Southern California, hoping to pursue a career in plastic surgery. I have the honor of serving as the moderator for today's panel. So I'm going to start off by introducing each of the panelists, and then we'll start and get right into questions. So first we have Ms. Jamila Hunter. She is the Executive Vice President of Programming and Development at Freeform, Disney's Millennial and Gen Z network that connects to its audience with bold, original programming. Prior to this position, Jamila Hunter was the Senior Vice President of ABC Comedy. In this role, she was responsible for overseeing the development of all new network sitcoms. Under her leadership, ABC launched the highly rated reboot of Roseanne and the Connors. Before stepping into this position, Jamila was the vice president of ABC Comedy, where she worked on projects ranging from the Emmy-nominated Blackish to audience favorites, Fresh Off the Boat and Last Man Standing. Prior to joining ABC, she worked her way up the executive ranks through various development roles in comedy, alternative and digital programming at NBC, Bravo, OWN, and the 20th Century Fox Television. Jamila started her career with NBC's Olympic Division after graduating from Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. Next, we have Ms. Tracy Lynn Blackwell. She is an experienced scripted television executive, most recently serving as Executive Vice President of Scripted Programming at BET Networks. In this role, Blackwell led all of BET Network's original scripted programming functions, including development, current programming, casting, and talent for the BET Linear Network and BET+. Previously, Blackwell served as Senior Vice President of Current Programs at the CW Network, where she oversaw the day-to-day creative production for some of the network's biggest brands, such as Supergirl, Jane the Virgin, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Black Lightning, Roswell, New Mexico, Legacies, and All-American. Blackwell sits on many boards and is also the co-chair of the Merge Summit, an organization and yearly conference that merges the worlds of faith and entertainment. A native of Silver Spring, Maryland, Blackwell earned a bachelor's degree in English from Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, and a master's degree in communication from Emerson College in Boston, Massachusetts. Next, I'll introduce Miss Mitzi Miller. Mitzi Miller is a best-selling author, celebrated journalist, veteran magazine editor, and well-respected TV film executive. In June of 2021, she was named the vice president at Warner Brothers Studios in the TV drama development department. This move follows 2015's successful leap from publishing to television and film, where she accepted the position of head of development at Rainforest Entertainment. During her tenure at the production company, she sold and produced multiple projects, including the popular BET drama series The Quad, and an untitled feature project with Oscar-winning actress Viola Davis at Amazon Studios. In addition, she independently co-produced several Movie of the Week features for BET networks, including Friend Request and Holiday Heist. Prior to the career transition, Miller served as editor-in-chief of two of the country's historic African-American magazines, Ebony and Jet. She is the third individual and only woman to hold both positions. The Connecticut native has co-authored 5 books over the past decade and is a frequent public speaker. Miller has been included amongst Crain's Chicago's Business Magazine's 2011 40 Under 40 roster, the Route 100 honorees in 2013 and 2014, as well as inducted into the Florida A&M University Alumni Gallery of Distinction. Next, I will introduce Dr. James Lockhart. Dr. James Lockhart, MD, is a psychiatry resident physician at the George Washington University Hospital. He attended Howard University College of Medicine for medical school and Morehouse College for undergraduate. He is originally from Chicago, Illinois, and is interested in addiction psychiatry. Next, we have Kevin Brodus. He is the 16th head coach of Morgan State University's men's basketball program in May 2019. Brodus has more than 20 years of coaching and elite-level recruiting experience. Brodus previously coached at the University of Maryland College Park, where he has been one of the nation's best recruiters as the top assistant on the coaching staff. Brodus was influential in the successful NCAA tournament run for the Terps. Brodus played a season of college basketball at Grambling State University before finishing his Hall of Fame career at Bowie State University, where he graduated in 1990. Upon graduation, Brodus remained at Bowie State as the assistant coach until 1993, before serving as an assistant at the University of the District of Columbia, UDC, for 4 seasons. While coaching at UDC, he earned a master's degree in counseling in 1995. Brodus also had coaching stints at American University and George Washington University before landing at Georgetown in 2004. Known for his outstanding local ties, Brodus has coached at 5 universities in the DC metro area. His professional coaching experience also includes having coached and recruited 5 high school All-Americans and 12 National Basketball Association players. Finally, we have Ms. Rhonda Andrews Reese. She is a native Houstonian and currently resides in the greater Houston area. Rhonda continued her father's legacy and began her matriculation at Hampton University in 1993. Rhonda obtained her Bachelor's of Arts degree in Political Science in May of 1997. While at Hampton, Rhonda was a peer counselor, a member of the Texas Club, where she later served as the president, and a member of the Political Science Club. She is also a spring 1997 initiate of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Gamma Iota chapter. Rhonda attended law school at Thurgood Marshall School of Law at Texas Southern University and received her JD in May of 2003. In 2007, she was sworn in as a licensed attorney in the state of Texas. Since 2016, she has been employed by the City of Houston as a staff attorney and assistant police administrator. Rhonda's duties and responsibilities consist of being the chief of police and executive staff, reviewing employee disciplinary cases, conducting disciplinary review hearings, presenting cases in arbitrations, and conducting legal research on various legal topics, including involving police departments and municipalities. She has been employed as an attorney for the city of Houston for over 10 years. Rhonda has future aspirations of running for judge or holding a political office in the near future. So I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of our panelists. Thank you all for being here. And I'm going to start with our questions. So our first question for all of you is, why did you choose your major and the HBCU you attended? Anyone can jump in.
Okay, I'll jump in. To be honest, Spelman was not initially on my list. When I was in high school, I really wanted to go to UVA, University of Virginia. But I had a mother that insisted that I visit different colleges and universities before I made up my mind. And so we would get on the train and on the weekends, and we would go visit different places. And I also, had the pleasure, I think probably as many of us had, of going on the Black College tour on the bus to visit a whole bunch of different HBCUs, and landed on the campus of Spelman College and literally fell in love. It just felt like home. I think a lot of people have the experience of, when they go to visit a place, they feel like that's it for them. And so for me, that was the experience of Spelman. I was like, Morehouse is across the street. It's all girls, but the all boys schools across the street I'm in. So, very, very, I could not have chosen a better choice. The best 4 years of my life. In terms of why I chose my major, I was an English major at Spelman, and I kind of had aspirations of working in media, and Spelman did not have a communications major, and so that is why I chose English, which I think was a really good choice. The good news about going to Spelman and being in that whole the triangle of Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark at the time, where you could cross-register. And so I took a lot of communications classes at Clark. So it was a perfect fit for me.
Thank you.
And I will say I can literally just tag on to Tracy's, meaning I went to Spelman College also and was an English major and worked in media, or wanted to go into media, and similarly was visiting colleges. I did not do the HBCU tour, but I had visited and actually had done a summer program at Brown University my junior year in high school, and thought that's where I was going. So I'd go a step further and say I already had made a decision. And because I went to visit Spelman, as Tracy said, I literally got there and I was like, oh, like this is for me. And I actually don't remember this specifically, but my mother recently was telling me, she's like, you don't remember the Brown recruiters like coming to the house trying to convince us to come. I think I had a full ride there, by the way. Like it wasn't even, and I just had made up my mind. Like that's how much I don't remember was that I was like, oh, I'm going to Spelman. And as Tracy said, 100% the best decision of my life. And I say this with all respect to the Ivy Leagues, and to all the choices that, knock on wood, you all will have as students. I often have had moments where I think back to those decisions and crossroads and think about who I would be in the world if I'd gone and lived in like Providence, Rhode Island and been in that environment, as opposed to an HBCU and the things we'll all talk about here. So as I said, definitely going to the campus, meeting the students and the faculty, and just feeling like it was home was what clinched it for me. And English major, very similar. I didn't exactly know until my sophomore year that I wanted to pursue a career in media, and stayed at Spelman and did an English major, but I took a lot of courses at Clark Atlanta University, which, as Tracy said, Morehouse is right there next to us, and Clark Atlanta is walking distance as well as Morehouse School of Medicine. So I took communication classes at Clark, and honestly was fortunate enough to have been in college, and you can all put my age together, but the Olympics were there in '96. So there was actually quite a lot of internships and opportunities around production in sports. that were there. So I was an English major. I took classes at Clark Atlanta, and I interned there and throughout the city. And it was, again, a great time to be in Atlanta and learn those sorts of skills. And coupling that with my English major degree, 100% plays into the job that I now have.
And I'll jump right in. I chose Hampton University, and I know without a doubt it was the best decision I made in terms of pursuing, my first degree. And the reason why I chose it is my father, 1956 graduate of Hampton University, but the first time that I went to Hampton was in 1987 when we were taking my brother, my youngest brother, to Hampton. And so I know as soon as I set foot on the campus right at the entrance, I was like, I'm going to this school. I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful. But it was just, our father had always shared a lot of fond memories of Hampton and how much he loved it. And I had a lot of opportunities to visit when my brother was there in school. And so that gave me, when he started, I was in junior high. So it was just always awesome to go for Parents Weekend and different events and just see the culture that HBCUs have to offer their students, and just to see so many people like ourselves thriving and doing well. And I chose to major in political science while I was at Hampton because just have always had real love and interest in politics. And then I felt like that would be a good segue for me to further my education in terms of getting a law degree. But I just know that Hampton, beautiful campus, known as the home by the sea, and it's the motto, education for life. It truly is an education for life, and you're so enriched there by the professors, by being nurtured, and it just has so much, as well as the other HBCUs, to offer its students.
Thank you.
So I would offer that I thought I was going to Spelman, and yeah, like my whole life, I know I was going to an HBCU. That was actually the only choice I was presented by my parents. And even though I applied to other PWIs, they were like, that's nice, you'll have to pay for it if you make that wrong decision. So I knew that I would be going to an HBCU. And I went to visit Atlanta. I loved all the things that Jamila and Tracy mentioned. But then I went to FAMU's homecoming, and I realized that in my soul, after, the game, the band, the boys, the parties, and the classrooms, and the campus, and all those other great things, that, yeah, I was going to be going to Florida, university. Initially, I was actually a science major because I thought I was going to be a doctor. My mom, I think, thought I was going to be a nurse. I thought I was going to be a doctor. But as soon as they informed me that I was going to have to prick my finger and to look at my own blood under the microscope, I realized that I would be neither. And so I became an English major, because what I do like to do is read. So I became an English teacher so that I could teach. I wanted to teach middle school, but the universe had different plans, and I'm a big believer of leaning in when doors open, and somehow I have found my way into media communications, publishing, and now TV and film. But it was 110% the best decision I ever made. My time on the highest of Seven Hills is unforgettable and life-changing, and it has never steered me wrong. And I 120% echo Jamila's statement that there's no regrets. I would not be the person I am. I would not have accomplished what I have, and I wouldn't appreciate life as much as I do had I not chosen to attend an HBCU.
I just want to be clear. My visit was the week before spring break, and they used to do a thing called Freaknik in Atlanta.
You see, exactly.
I'm not good. And the campus and the classwork and all of that. And I was like, Atlanta? What?
It can be life-changing, those moments. That's all.
And FAMU's homecoming is amazing and fun.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I kind of just a different perspective. I got to be honest, I didn't choose this HBCU lifestyle, it chose me. I didn't necessarily have any interest in going to college initially because of my background. And I'm originally from Chicago. I grew up in a small area called Cabrini Green. It's a project. You've probably seen some of it, like in the movies Candyman and the beginning of Good Times, right? So just growing up there, I didn't really have an interest. And I met somebody who worked for the UNCF, and he saw me, and his first impression was like, hey, I think you could do more with your life if you were in a better environment. And at the time, no problem, it was an opportunity for me. And he actually said, hey, I want you to go to Morehouse because I think, for a Black male, this is the best school for Black males. And I had never visited the campus. I had the only time I've heard about Morehouse was during the movie Boys in the Hood. Trey, the character that's played by Cuba Gooding Jr. went to Morehouse, right? So a summer program right after I graduated from high school. I was lucky enough to graduate from high school. He sent me down there, no family send off. It was just me on a Greyhound with a duffel bag. And once I got to the Greyhound bus station, took a cab to the campus. And once I got out the cab, I was just there with my bag. And somebody ran out the dorm and, greeted me real warm and said, hey, what are you supposed to be? And I kind of told him the program I was supposed to go to. And he's like, follow me, and it was probably one of the warmest welcomes and from a brother I had received, So that summer I did really well, was accepted. And the rest was kind of history. He was right. I did do better. I did find confidence in myself that I didn't have before. And as far as why I chose, I was a psychology major at Morehouse. And I was always interested in human behavior. My father, we grew up in a certain situation where he was homeless, and I spent a lot of time around street people who had mental illnesses. And he used to always tell me since a young child that man was mine. And I never really understood what he meant, because he's saying it to like a 6-year-old, and once I got older, he was trying to prime me for that we control our destiny through our thoughts, right? So of course, it all kind of, it was a synergy once I got down there and studied psychology, and kind of placed me on the road to becoming a doctor. I didn't really see this far into the future where I would become a doctor, but it was just a step in the right direction. So overall, it was a great experience. I really loved my experience at Morehouse. Of course, I attended Howard, HU for medical school. So I'm kind of like the double HBCU. So I'm super proud. I'm always a Morehouse man at heart, but I am a Bison. So I'm just going to leave it right there. And it's a pleasure to be here today. I really thank you guys.
Thank you. And then Coach Brodus, I think you're the last person. We can't hear you, or at least I can't. I still can't hear you. I don't know if it's just me. Can you all hear me?
Is your microphone on?
I think he's frozen. Oh, no.
Yeah. Is it still not working? Okay, we'll come back to that. So some of you touched on homecoming and other events that you enjoyed during school, but specifically what extracurricular activities were you involved in while you were at school? And do you believe that like added to your professional development in any way?
To be honest, I didn't, I'm not sure I did a whole lot of extracurricular at Spelman. I think, it's mostly enjoying the life of being a student and being on the yard. I think several of us were in the only club I think I was in was the DC Metro Club, which I don't know that they still have state clubs, but back when we were in the olden days, we were at Spelman and Morehouse. A lot of people, you kind of define people by, I know that sounds weird, but by this, where they were from. And so it was like, that person's from the DMV, that person's from Houston, that person's from New York, that person's from Chicago. And so the clubs were like a big thing on campus. And the DC Metro Club was a really great club to be in because DC Metro was that actually threw Freaknik every year. And actually, we also had this other really cool event called the Pajama Party that was thrown every year. And so I think that was the actual only club I was in, frankly. And I spent my summers and my Christmases interning and working. So yeah, so I honestly, I didn't do a lot of that. I didn't do a lot of extracurricular, to be honest, Liz.
Yeah, well, I'd say, and I mean, Trace, for those of us who went to Spelman, it is interesting because I think within that, the Atlanta University Center, there's your schools, right? So there's a lot of activities there. And then our dorms at Spelman, like, because I'm like, it wasn't a club, but everyone who knows, like your freshman dorm, there's step teams, there's all sorts of events, especially freshman year at Spelman that are actually very connected to your dorms as well as to kind of your college within the AUC. Again, I didn't do a ton. I was in the honors program and things like that, but I 100%, I would say most of my things were, as I said, I was in the city. Like I interned at the radio station at Clark. I was at Georgia Public Television. Don't even ask. I was doing something over there. And then, as I said, there was the sports events that I was working because I was training with the Olympic Committee for a job. So honestly, I was at basketball games, football games. I wasn't doing anything sexy. I was like pulling cable for a cameraman or assistant.
Right, me too. Yeah.
But it was, you know what I mean? And people were like, and I was like, no, I was picking up gum at the side of the gymnastics. But it definitely was like a lot of my weekends wound up being activities around sporting events and things like that because I was doing the training program for the Olympics. But it was the city, there was a lot going on in Atlanta, as there still is. There was a lot going on in the city at the time. So I feel like my extracurricular tended to be more that than it was like a specific club thing. But I agree we probably had an LA thing too. Again, I'm from California. And as Tracy said, in those early years, you do kind of orient a little bit with kind of where you're from. But I was definitely busy. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah. And I didn't pledge until grad chapter. So I didn't do the sorority thing in undergrad, so that became late. Kevin, is your microphone working yet?
Can you hear me?
Ah,
Yes, sure can.
no.
So you can hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
now we can.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm that's a whole nother story. But from Washington D.C. Came out of high school in the '80s, and my path was a little different. Growing up in the '80s, you followed a lot of teams in this area, Georgetown, Maryland, and Georgetown was dear to my heart. And back in the 80s, I thought Georgetown was an HBCU. And I had offers from different schools in the area, George Washington, Nevada, Reno, and different other schools. And it struck me that, you know what, I'm gonna try this HBCU thing. Even though I wasn't good enough to go to Georgetown at the time, I said the next best thing was going to play for Hall of Fame coach. So I ended up going to Grambling. Come to find out, the Hall of Fame coach was a football coach, not a basketball coach. And, going to Grambling really opened my eyes. I'm kind of like James. My parents took me down to the Greyhound station in D.C. with a trunk and a duffel bag. And for 3 days, I was on the bus going to Grambling. We wasn't afforded the luxury of flying back then. We couldn't afford it, but went to Grambling. It was a little bit a ways away from home, so I decided to transfer back home to Bowie State, where actually I did have a Hall of Fame career. To this day, one of the all-time leading scorers there. I went to school because of business. I wanted to go into business. I was a business undergraduate major, in a counseling graduate major. And the reason I want to go in business, a lot of people in my neighborhood growing up wasn't business savvy, and I wanted to be business savvy. I wanted to own a business. My wife and I, after I finished college, owned a hair salon outside of Georgetown. And that's where I used my degree. And then my advanced degree, I used it because after about 13 years, I was into the business. The guys called me about coaching, helping out at Bowie, and I did that. So I said, well, with all these personalities, I need to counsel some of these guys. So I took counseling as a advanced degree. I got my master's in counseling, and I've been actually coaching, Lacey, over 30 years. I'm actually telling my age, but and I've had some wonderful stops. And I was not, and what I would say to youngsters, I was not good enough to, and I'm not ashamed to play in the NBA, but it's the next best thing, you know, being able to impact youngsters' lives, coaching them and watching them go to the NBA. I've coached some of the best players in the country, and it's just been fun, and it's just been, it beats working. That's how I always look at it. Coaching, you know, young African-American men and whites as well, beats working. So that's my story in a brief nutshell.
Okay, thank you. I think we're gonna, in the sake of time, we're just gonna move on to the next question. So are you all working in the career field that you went to school to pursue? And if not, what changed your career track and how did you go about that? So I know some of you came in saying that you knew what you wanted to do, and if so, how did you know that? And then if not, how did you figure that out?
Okay, I'll start it off. I am working in my field. As I said, majored in political. I later graduated from Thurgood Marshall with my Juris Doctor. And so I knew early on, probably around the 7th or 8th grade, I think we were doing mock trials in school, but my mother was a graduate of Thurgood Marshall School of Law. My oldest brother, a graduate of Howard University School of Law. So I always, for a long time, had an interest in law. And it was just really natural for me. When I in, I was involved in a lot of, you know, different activities and things like that, but I was always interested in advocacy and things like debating. I like to debate on sports and a whole bunch of other stuff, politics and so forth. So I just always had a love for that. I knew, you know, being a lawyer was an opportunity for me in terms of my education and career and goals, but also as an opportunity for me to advocate for others, whether in government work or when I had some time as in private practice. That was a really huge opportunity for me. And people probably even said ever since I was a little girl, I like to talk, like to others, enjoy helping others and working with people. So law was just always, you know, one of those things at the top of my list, things that I was really, really interested in. I think if I could do it all over again, I would do it the same way.
I think the great thing about winding up with an English degree is that it essentially means that I'm trainable. I can read, I can write, and I can basically, because I went to an HBCU, any situation that you throw me into, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to get to the front of the line. I'm not going to take no for an answer, because obviously it just means not with you. So yeah, like I get, in general, yes, I am working in the field that I got a degree in because my degree covers so much. But I also was the person that, like I said, I got there. I thought I wanted to be a science major. Before I decided I wanted to be a science major, I thought I wanted to be a gymnast. Before that, I thought I wanted to be a professional ice skater. So like, you can not and be in that kind of environment and be exposed to so much that you're able to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely working in a. I'm sorry. Did I jump on somebody?
No, you're good. Go, Trace.
Oh, I'm definitely working in the field that I wanted to be in. I did, figure it out somewhere, more specifically what I wanted to do, while I was at Spelman. And which is why, I decided to go to graduate school and why I specifically chose the graduate school that I went to. But, I think you have these moments, as you, and I'm sure, many of you, during your college experience, will feel the same way. You have these moments, these seminal moments where a light bulb goes on and you sort of begin to figure out what direction you're headed in and what your passions are. And that's why, the internships and the jobs I had in the summer were absolutely 100% vital, because interning is as much about figuring what you don't like as it is about figuring what you do like. And so it just helps you eliminate a lot of things, and so you don't waste time exploring those options that are really not for you. And so just spending every Christmas and every summer doing that, I think really, really helped. But at some point, and I had a moment where I was reading in Essence magazine, and there was a really great article about this really beautiful, really smart woman named Deborah Langford, who at the time was working at Warner Brothers in current programming. And I remember reading the article thinking, she's so beautiful and so young and so accomplished, and it sounds like her job is really, really cool. I would love to be like her one day, not having any idea that not only would I end up doing the exact same thing, working, years later for Warner Brothers, which is one half of the CW, but also that same person I was reading about in the magazine would become my mentor, one of my first mentors in LA, and a very dear friend. And so, once I figured out that I wanted to be working in media, I just sort of got laser focused on getting there. And that is why I chose to go to Emerson College, which is a school that's targeted towards media. And so I cannot tell you, working in television is the dream of my life. And I've been blessed to have a job that I love. So I'm 100% working in the field that I went to school for.
And I was going to say, all I'm going to do is piggyback on Tracy, you guys, every time she says, but similar as around my sophomore year, when I kind of zoomed in on it, I was going to go to grad school and had applied to grad schools actually and gotten into a couple. And as I mentioned, I actually graduated a semester early and started working for NBC's Olympic division in Atlanta. And everybody I was working with, when they said, well, do you want to work in entertainment, said to me, you're probably going to be an assistant. You'll either have a master's and be an assistant, or you won't. Why don't you just try to get a job? We'll help you connect the dots. So I deferred at a couple of schools that, like, as Tracy went to Emerson, I thought I was going to do the same thing. And honestly, as people like Tracy who've known me a long time, I've always been going back to grad school. Every year I'm like, I'm going this year, guys. And then I'm working, which is a good thing. But 100% when I honed in on development, which is a piece of similar to what Tracy does early on, my first job at NBC as a page, which is an entry-level job there, which I was able to get because of the experience I had with NBC's Olympic division. I had a general meeting with somebody who explained what our jobs are. And that again gave me the ability to kind of hone in on that, feeling like a good merger of creative and business. And then I could go about getting the sort of skills to get me ahead in that field. And literally, when I say to you, there was a job early on as an executive, and I didn't really understand what it was, but someone had said that I met, you should apply. My English major skills, meaning I had to write what's called coverage and a script analysis and things I didn't really know what they were yet. But as whoever it was, I'm sorry, my screen's tiny, was saying, as an English major, I know how to read material, I know how to write, I know how to assess things and communicate. So I literally remember going, I don't really know what coverage means, but I can figure out how to talk about what I need to analyze here. And those skills, although I didn't get that job, I got a job in that department 6 months later, once I was able to go, oh, I need to figure out how to translate what I know how to do for literature to television and to scripts. So as I said, the English degree definitely comes into play in different ways. It does mean, again, you're broad-based. you're versatile, but also it 100% comes into play in my job in terms of looking at material and communicating and talking about story and character in different forms. Yeah, and again, as Tracy said, I feel definitely blessed and surprised because I literally was like, let me just see if I can get a job, and then I'm going to grad school, and I have yet to get that degree, but I'm going to do it. I really want.
Well, I gotta say, for me, things worked out. As a psychology major, I thought I was going to become a psychologist, and the same mentor from the UNCF came to me and said, "Hey, what do you want to be?" And I explained to him I wanted to be a psychologist. That he said, "Nope, you're going to become a medical doctor because you always have a job." And at the time, I was just like, kind of blown away because I didn't necessarily have that a strong vision for myself. And I think there's a couple pearls in what everybody said about this question is about mentorship, internship, and being able to have confidence in yourself that you can do it. And sometimes you don't have confidence in yourself, and you have to believe in somebody else's confidence in you until you start believing in yourself. So that was one of the situations. And once he told me that I had to become a doctor, it was like sitting. He didn't know that I wouldn't stop until I achieved that. But overall, it worked out because having the background in psychology really helps out in a psychiatry practice, understanding human behavior, and having a more of a humanistic style to practice in medicine. It's really helped me. So I would say yes, it was in alignment as far as what I studied with my career.
So the last guy here, I am the minority of the group. I did not go to college to be a basketball coach. I went to college to get into business, which I did. And then, career change. And, I always tell kids these days, follow your passion. Don't follow a dollar. And, I was making a lot of good money in business. And my passion, once I got into it, was coaching youngsters, to get to their dreams. So, no, I did not go to be a coach, but that's how I ended up. And I've done well with it. I've traveled the country. Actually, I probably make a lot more money now than I ever have, even though I didn't chase a dollar. And one thing you got to know when you're looking at schools and professions, your end game may not be at the beginning. Your end game can come at any time of your life. So, it's been a blessing for me because I always say it beats working. I don't think what I do is like work, but I get paid pretty good to do it, and I love what I do. So.
Before you move on, Lacey, I would just also offer that I think when we were in school, the range of majors was a lot more limited than it is now. And it is so encouraging to see how many more options you have these days in terms of finding exactly what you want to do. Like there are programs specifically for the entertainment industry that exist now that absolutely were not anywhere in the zeitgeist at the time that I was at school. So again, a lot of it for us, I feel like, was feeling it out, doing the internships. But now you guys get to go in and it's literally waiting for you if you do your research at our different institutions. You can literally find everything that interests you. You can pursue it during the school year, then intern in something totally different during your downtime.
Okay, thank you everyone for your answers. We're gonna move on to one last question from me and then questions from the audience, but I'd like to echo what you all said in that last question. I think it's really important for the students to know that whether you know what you wanna do or you don't know what you do, you'll find the resources that you need to figure it out or to help you in what you wanna do at an HBCU. So our last question from me, as a proud HBCU alum, do you find yourself educating your colleagues about the importance of recruiting from HBCUs and infusing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility into your workplace in your respective careers?
I'll jump in on this one, and Tracy will last. It's the only time I'll go before Tracy. I now have, I don't even know how many HBCU people working at Freeform. Like, we've kind of taken over. We have our new intern is at Spelman now, actually. She's graduating this year. We have an apprentice who is from Spelman, one of our coordinators from they've never known so much about HBCUs until I came to work. Like all of them feel out of the loop. And that predates, I mean, luckily at this particular juncture, especially with Zoom, in some ways, having interns and things that aren't in Los Angeles has made it easier because usually you need to be in LA. But it's for sure something that I was very vocal about for the 10 years I worked at ABC. I would go on recruiting trips to HBCUs and give people my email address. I can tell you the ones who used it, and used it in ways that were actionable. Like, I applied for this, can you do Y? And then they'd show up in my hallway, like, hey, I'm here. I was like, oh, you made it. I'm being serious. Tracy, Missy, y'all know Stephen Love. Stephen Love is like, I was like, yes. And next thing I knew, he was like making movies. So,
yes,
in the best of ways, I am not shy about educating my colleagues about it, / when there are amazing HBCU alum and filmmakers and talent, especially in the world we work in, I'm loud about it. Like I literally am like, Stephen Love was our intern. Look what he's doing now, to really connect the dots for people. Kenya Barris went to Clark Atlanta. Yes, he created Blackish and Grownish. He's from an HBCU. And I know Tracy's the same with really connecting the work that's being done in the world with people that have come out of HBCUs. I wouldn't even say it's a mission, but I know we started this talking about it being what your purpose is. And we're very passionate about making sure that not only students in HBCUs know we're here so that we can connect the dots and have a network for them, but also educating our colleagues and counterparts about the assets that come when you hire an alum from HBCUs. And like I said, hit me up. I'll make sure because it is something I'm not going to be in this job forever, and making sure that our talent pool reflects voices from the HBCUs is something I'm very passionate about.
I would echo, like, I 100% agree with you, Jamila. Every position that I've held where I have an opportunity to talk about it and or hire, my first choice has always been an HBCU graduate. I don't think I've ever not hired one. there may be 2 people that slid in, because when you're in that position to make a decision, that's what I choose. I think that that's one of the biggest benefits of going to an HBCU is that when you graduate, there is this enormous alumni system already in place waiting to welcome you, looking out for you, opening doors. We're our own not-so-secret society. Everywhere I go, I'm not just educating colleagues on what we are and how amazing we are, I'm also making sure that they put a little respect on the fact that we went to HBCUs and clear that it was a decision, not like something we stumbled into. We all had choices, and this is what we decided to do, and so many of us continue to do so. So yeah, I'm definitely the same way. Interns, opportunities, always giving my email out, always trying to hook people up because we're a family. No matter which institution you wind up going to, which college, university, we're all one big family.
And I also think with the elevation of Kamala Harris and Stacey Abrams, like that shut the conversation like all the way down. Like if anybody had any doubts, it was a wrap after that. I mean, we all knew the truth before that happened, but now the conversation I think is shut all the way down. And so so proud. Like there's a joke that. About people who went to Harvard that they try to work in every conversation that they either went to school in Cambridge or somehow they work in that they graduated from Harvard. Like there's a joke that they cannot help themselves. And I will tell you, embarrassingly, I think it's the same thing about Spelman. Like we cannot shut up about it. Like it is such a point of pride, I think, for so many of us, because it was such an incredible and very rare experience, the sisterhood. It's just hard not to talk about it. I'm so proud. Obviously, working in a place like BET, it's literally a pool of so many great great experiences with a lot of HBCU in that environment. And even though I think I was one of the few people who worked at the CW who went to Spelman, it was very, very, very clear where I went to school. I talked about it a lot, and I think everybody was very aware that Spelman College was such an incredible institution, and as I like to say, the top. No shade to anybody else.
And everyone has their opinion, my love.
Okay. Does anybody else want to comment on that?
Well, one thing I can say this: I work at HBCU. It's the first one since I've become in mainstream basketball. I'm at Morgan, but I can date back to when I coached at Georgetown, and I used to laugh at kids that came into the profession from PWIs because they weren't prepared. You know, when you go to a HBCU, you're prepared for life and how to deal with life. And I used to laugh at guys because, yeah, they knew they had the book smarts, but what I do, you can't have book smarts. You got to have more than just book smart. You have to have, you know, interpersonal skill smarts. You have, and I have to go here and say, you have to have street smarts. And going to HBCU will teach you, yes, they will teach you the book smarts, but everything else. And a lot of guys that get thrown into the business that I am and come in, their first job is at Georgetown. Now I've gone to HBCU, I've coached at HBCUs, and these guys don't know how to work. One thing HBCUs teach you, how to work. And a lot of guys come in, they don't have the experience of dealing with a Black family. And that's part of our job in our life. We recruit and we coach young African-American men and women, and we try to make them better. And these kids come from the university and not, you know, they're not trained to, and that's probably a bad terminology, but they're not trained to do that, you know, and they always lean on you. And I used to laugh, and people always say, how you become one of the best assistant coaches in the country? Hey, I learned the way of life through a HBCU at Grambling and at Bowie State. And a lot of those guys can't say that. So it has a lot of value to go to a HBCU, a lot of value. And I always tell kids, because they always say, well, what about going to Georgia Tech, Georgetown, GW? I said, the textbooks are the same, the professors are the same, they all have PhDs, and then they talk about the game itself. I said, well, the basketball we played at a HBCU is orange, and the court is 94 feet. What's the difference? And a lot of these coaches at HBCUs have the same, they've gone through the same training as coaches in the PWI. So don't shun the HBCU. You can get to your dreams going to a HBCU. It may take you a little longer. It may, to some people, it's faster, but the same end line, the end goal is the same. You know, be the top of your profession or your trade. So don't look down. I always tell young men, and even at coaching, when they say they, you know, coaching at a HBCU, you know, as you go up the ranks, don't look down on them, because at some point in your life, you may go back and coach there. And I see it every day happening. So HBCUs right now, it's funny we're talking about it, is the place to be. You know, this year we're going to play in the first annual HBCU tournament Chris Paul's having. It was supposed to be in the Bahamas, but it's in Arizona. And ESPN is going to broadcast it. So we're going to get the same notoriety as George Mason or any of the other schools out in the country. So don't take it for granted, HBCUs. HBCU has a lot to offer, all of them, not just Spelman, Morehouse, Hampton, Howard, all of them. They all have something to offer to all of us.
Thank you for that. Does anyone else have anything to say? We have to wrap up like soon, but if anyone else wants to chime in really quick.
I just wanted to say that I echo what Coach Broda said and what all the other panelists are saying about just having a true education for life. Just always with the HBCUs, with the strong alumni base and the networking, you can always find people, real life people that, as people said, you can get an email from, people that are willing to reach back and help you because they've been where you are as a student, to help you further your goals and aspirations. And I would just say, whichever HBCU you choose, hopefully you'll choose Hampton, the real HU. But just get involved while you're on campus. Get involved, as we talked about the different clubs. I'm a spring 1997 Gamma Iota initiate of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, so I did have the opportunity of pledging while I was on campus at Hampton University. But just really take it all in and get involved with as many activities as you can. As people said, internships. Immerse yourself in the culture and that all that these schools have to offer, because once you finish that degree there, it really is for life, and it will open so many doors and opportunities for you that you couldn't even imagine.
It's definitely a special period in your life, and there's so much to do, and it will go fast. I think that's what you don't realize, that it seems like 4 years is going to be a long time. It's going to go fast. So you want to soak it in. You want to make sure you spend time socializing. Those are the people you're going to know for the rest of your life. You know, when they say, look to your left, look to your right, like those are really going to be your people. It's an amazing opportunity to meet your tribe, to discover what you're passionate about, and to start the journey of living your life out loud. Yeah, best decision ever, for sure.
And I definitely, as far as like relationships, a lot of the relationships I developed during my experience at HBCUs were for life. Just strong camaraderie, and more of a family environment that you might not experience at other schools. And those are like Coach was saying, the intangibles that you would experience going to HBCU. The textbooks are the same, the curriculum are the same. There might be differences in resources, but going to HBCU definitely taught me to be resourceful and have a certain level of resilience and resolve, and be, you know, family oriented, that I didn't see with people that went to medical schools that were all white. Essentially how it kind of trained us to really be able to lean on each other and create an environment that was service oriented, which really plays a difference in patient care, especially with healthcare equity that we're seeing today, you know. So I always tell people to, you know, choose a HBCU first. So
HBCUs, and this is something that you got to always remember. We're making a 40-year decision, not just a 4-year decision. A lot of times when you go to HBCUs and you go back for years and years to homecomings or whatever on campus, those people are there. They love you and love on you. You go to a PWI and you go to those homecomings, you basically don't even see any of the people. It's not the family camaraderie at those schools. Like we always tell these young men when we recruit them, this is a 40-year decision, not just a 4-year decision. Because some of these people could be in your life for the next 40 years. And people help each other. You go PWI, you just good for them while you're there. It's a business, and what the type business I'm in. So.
Okay, well, thank you so much to all of you all for participating. I think this has been a really insightful panel. So I really appreciate you all taking time to talk to the students. I hope everyone learned a lot from your experiences and your paths. So yeah, thank you. And then for registered participants, could you please head over to the Knowledge is Power session at 3 p.m. I believe you can go to the registered guest section of the AKA ILO HBCUconference.org and go to that segment that will begin now. All right, thank you, everyone.
Lacey, why is this about AKAs? Why this is not about Kappa Alpha Psi?